20th Century Fox has been a significant entity in entertainment history, known for distributing and producing influential franchises like Star Wars, Avatar, and The Simpsons. So when they were purchased by Disney in 2019, many people thought that this deal would never go through. After all, both companies fiercely denied rumors of a merger back in 2018. Plus, Fox had been independent for decades, and breaking away from their parent company, News Corp, was a huge part of their identity. So what went wrong? Why did Disney end up buying out one of their biggest competitors? And why are they getting rid of such an iconic brand? This is the rise and fall of 20th Century Fox. Starting off our story, let's take a look at where it all began. The origins of 20th Century Fox trace back to 1915, when Hungarian immigrant William Fox established the Fox Film Corporation, building upon his earlier ventures in film distribution and exhibition. The venture was moderately successful, but they soon sold the theater to open up a new business, the Fox Film Corporation. With the help of their friend Winfield Sheehan, the company started producing low-budget short films in the early days of cinema. These B-movies were rough around the edges, but they found their audience. And by 1915, the company was making money. They were ready to take the next step, but first they needed a logo. The now famous 20th Century Fox fanfare was created by composer Alfred Newman. As for the image, it was drawn up by an illustrator named Arthur L. Mayer. He drew inspiration from the Greek goddess of victory and added a couple of foxes to represent the sly nature of the film industry. With their new branding complete, the company set out to become the first true movie studio. The Fox Film Corporation didn't just want to produce and distribute movies, they wanted to make movies, own the theaters that showed them, and manufacture the equipment needed to make the experience possible. Spyro Skouras became president of 20th Century Fox in 1942 and served until 1962, during which he oversaw significant expansions and innovations, including the introduction of CinemaScope. Spyros in particular became a major force, eventually serving as president of 20th Century Fox from 1942 to 1962. Under his leadership, the company navigated the rise of television and championed major innovations like CinemaScope. For example, they were the first to experiment with double features. The concept seemed odd at the time, but it helped Fox earn a lot of extra revenue, and they would have done even better if not for the Great Depression. The Fox Film Corporation suffered greatly during the economic downturn, but it gave the brothers an idea. If they couldn't succeed individually, then maybe they could work together with their rival, the Fox Theater Corporation. In 1935, Fox Film Corporation merged with 20th Century Pictures, resulting in the creation of 20th Century Fox Film Corporation. The company was born in 1935, but it took a while for them to find their footing. They released movies left and right, but nothing really stood out until 1938. Darryl Zanuck, the head of production, decided to take a chance on a pair of unknowns. He cast Tyrone Power and Alice Faye in a film called In Old Chicago. The movie was a hit, and the two became big stars. Over the next few years, Zanuck continued to take risks and sign new talent, helping 20th Century Fox gain a reputation for being progressive. This helped the company gain ground on their biggest rivals, MGM and Warner Brothers, and it would have made them a lot more money if not for World War II. The war caused a shortage of materials and labor, which made it difficult for any movie studio to turn a profit. And things got even worse when the U.S. entered the war. Suddenly, all of the male stars were off fighting overseas, leaving the studios with nothing but women and children to cast in their movies. Although the men were eventually replaced and the film industry got back to normal, the damage was already done. With the popularity of television rising after the war, fewer people were going to see movies no matter how good they were. So the studios needed to innovate. To counter the rising popularity of television, 20th Century Fox introduced CinemaScope in 1953, a widescreen film format that enhanced the cinematic experience. CinemaScope was a widescreen format designed to combat the rise of television. It provided a more immersive experience, and moviegoers flocked to theaters in droves. Fox saw a massive resurgence in popularity throughout the 1950s. Some of the biggest blockbusters of all time were released during this era, including The Robe, The Sound of Music, The King and I, and South Pacific. But there was one movie that stood above the rest. Cleopatra was a historical epic about the last active pharaoh of ancient Egypt. It starred Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, and Rex Harrison, and was directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz. The movie was filmed in glorious CinemaScope and told a sweeping story that audiences fell in love with. Cleopatra, 1963, grossed approximately $57 million worldwide. However, its production costs soared to an estimated $44 million, leading to significant financial strain for 20th Century Fox. The movie nearly bankrupted the company and left them on the brink of collapse. With debts piling up, the heads of Fox knew that something had to be done. In 1985, media mogul Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation acquired 20th Century Fox, marking a new chapter in the studio's history. The deal was worth $100 million and gave Murdoch full control of the company. At the time, it was the largest leveraged buyout in corporate history. When Murdoch took over, he cut costs and downsized the company. But that didn't mean that 20th Century Fox stopped making great movies. In fact, the opposite was true. They went on to release some of the biggest blockbusters of all time, including Planet of the Apes, The French Connection, The Omen, and Alien. But then came 1977 and changed everything. In 1977, George Lucas's Star Wars was released, distributed by 20th Century Fox, and became a monumental success. It was a space opera that told the story of a group of rebels who tried to save the galaxy from an evil empire. It didn't seem like much, but the movie was a huge hit. It grossed over $775 million worldwide, becoming the highest grossing movie of all time. To say that Star Wars was a cultural phenomenon would be an understatement. It spawned multiple sequels, a theme park, a convention, and millions of die-hard fans. But here's the thing, Fox didn't believe in the movie at all. George Lucas had to convince them to even give it a wide release. The only reason why they agreed was because his previous film, American Graffiti, was a huge hit. In fact, American Graffiti was the third highest grossing movie of 1973. So Lucas had some leverage. The heads of Fox were still skeptical though. They gave him a small budget and expected the worst. But they couldn't have been more wrong. Star Wars made them billions and put them at the top of Hollywood once again. And this is when the company officially dropped the 20th Century in their name to become simply Fox. From that point on, they focused primarily on producing and distributing movies and abandoned filmmaking altogether. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Fox released some of the most popular movies of all time. This included The Empire Strikes Back, Titanic, Die Hard, Alien, Predator, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Home Alone, Avatar, and X-Men. Their television division also grew tremendously, and they went on to launch some of the most popular shows of all time, including The Simpsons, Beverly Hills, 90210, Bones, and Glee. But the success didn't last forever. The 21st century wasn't as kind. While Fox did have some hits like Avatar and X-Men, they faced increasing competition from other studios. Marvel and DC started releasing more movies, and streaming platforms began eating into their profits. On top of that, audiences were changing, and the company was struggling to keep up. This was made evident by the poor performance of some of their biggest franchises. For example, the last 3 movies in the Alien franchise have all been box office bombs, and the X-Men franchise hasn't been profitable since 2016's Deadpool. Not only that, but the company's television networks were starting to decline as well. Cable TV was falling out of favor, and younger audiences weren't interested in the shows that Fox was producing. All of this led to declining profits and a desperate search for a solution. In 2016, Fox announced that they were putting their film and TV businesses up for sale. Disney and Sony were rumored to be interested in buying the company, but it looked like nothing was going to come of these talks. Everyone assumed that Fox would remain independent and carry on as usual, but then something unexpected happened. A bidding war broke out. Apple, Comcast, Netflix, and Disney all expressed interest in buying Fox, which drove up the price exponentially. Eventually, Disney won the bidding war and bought 21st Century Fox for $71.3 billion. The deal closed on March 2019, and the iconic name was no more. Following its acquisition by Disney in 2019, the studio was rebranded as 20th Century Studios in 2020, distancing itself from the remaining Fox Corporation entities. Although the name change was a major loss for movie fans, it made sense for Disney. Disney already owned a company called Fox, and they didn't want the two to be confused, so ditching the name altogether was a smart move. but it's still a shame. 20th Century Fox was one of the most iconic brands in Hollywood history. They were responsible for some of the most beloved films of all time. They made stars and launched careers, and they were always willing to take a chance on new ideas. The studio was known for its incredible legacy and unforgettable films. From Titanic to Die Hard, Alien to Home Alone, 20th Century Fox was behind some of the most iconic movies of all time. They changed cinema forever and made movie fans around the world fall in love with the big screen. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to stay tuned for our videos about business, economics, and finance, or anything. Have a good one. Hit the like, subscribe, share for more.